Before we get started, it's important to note that none of these methods fall under what we would term the dark arts of influencing people. Anything that might be harmful to someone in any way, especially to their self-esteem, is not included here. These are ways to win friends and influence people using psychology without being a jerk or making someone feel bad. So here at Fact Generation, we've broken down the top 10 psychological tricks you can use to influence people. Trick 10. Get someone to do a favor for you, also known as the Benjamin Franklin effect. Legend has it that Benjamin Franklin once wanted to win over a man who didn't like him. He asked the man to lend him a rare book, and when the book was received, he thanked him graciously. As a result, this man, who had never wanted to speak to him before, became good friends with Franklin. To quote Franklin, "He that has once done you a kindness will be more ready to do you another than he whom you've obliged." Scientists decided to test this theory and found out that those who were asked by researchers for a personal favor rated the researcher much more favorably than the other groups did. It may be counterintuitive, but the theory is pretty sound if you believe it or not. If someone does a favor for you, they are likely to rationalize that you must have been worth doing the favor for, and then decide that therefore they must like you. Trick 9. Ask for way more than you want at first and then scale it back later. This trick is sometimes known as the door in the face approach. You start by throwing a really ridiculous request at someone, a request they most likely will reject. Then you come back shortly thereafter and ask for something much less ridiculous than the thing you actually wanted in the first place. This trick may also sound counterintuitive, but the idea behind it is that someone will feel bad after refusing the first request, even though it was unreasonable. So when you ask for something reasonable, they will feel obliged to help you out this time. Scientists tested this principle and found that it worked extremely well as long as the same person was asked for both the bigger and the smaller favor, because the person feels obliged to help you the second time and not anyone else. Trick 8. Use a person's name or their title depending on the situation. Dale Carnegie, the author of How to Win Friends and Influence People, believed that using someone's name was incredibly important. He said that a person's name is the sweetest sound in any language for that person. A name is the core part of our identity, and so hearing it validates our existence, which makes us more inclined to feel positively about the person who validates us. But using a title or form of address can also have strong effects, according to the as-if principle. The idea is that if you act like a certain type of person, you will become that person. It's a bit like a self-fulfilling prophecy. To use this to influence others, you can refer to them as what you want them to be, so they will start thinking of themselves this way. This can be as simple as calling an acquaintance you want to be closer to a friend or a mate whenever you see them, or referring someone who you want to work for as boss. But be warned, this can come off as very corny. Trick 7. Flattery will actually get you everywhere. This one may seem obvious at first, but there are some important caveats to it. For starters, it is important to note that if flattery is not seen as sincere, it's going to do more harm than good. But researchers have studied the motivations behind people's reactions to flattery and found some very important things. To put it simply, they found that people tend to look for more cognitive balance, trying to always keep their thoughts and feelings organized in a similar way. So if you flatter someone who has high self-esteem and it seems as sincere, they will like you more, as you are validating how they feel about themselves. However, if you flatter someone who has low self-esteem, there is a chance it could backfire and cause them to like you less because it interferes with how they perceive themselves. That of course does not mean you should demean a person of low self-esteem. Trick 6. Mirror their behavior. Mirroring is also known as mimicry and is something that people do naturally. People with this skill are considered to be chameleons. They try to blend into their environment by copying other people's behaviors, mannerisms, and even speech patterns. However, the skill can also be used consciously and is a great way to make you more likable. Researchers studied mimicry and found that those who've been mimicked were much more likely to act favorably towards the person who had copied them. Even more interesting was their second find that those who had someone mimic their behavior were actually nicer and more agreeable to others in general, even those not involved in the situation. It is likely that the reason why this works is that mirroring someone's behavior makes them feel validated. While this validation is likely to be most positively associated with the person who validated them, they will feel greater self-esteem and thus be more confident, happier, and well-disposed to others. Trick 5. Ask for favors when someone is tired. When someone is tired, they are more susceptible to everything someone may say, whether it's a statement or a request. The reason for this is that when people are tired, it isn't just their physical body, their mental energy levels drop as well. When you ask a request of someone who is tired, you probably won't get a definite response, but probably an "I'll do it tomorrow," because they don't want to deal with decisions at the moment. The next day, they are likely to follow through because people tend to keep their word. It's natural psychology to want to follow through with something that you said you would do. Trick 4. Start with a request they can't refuse and work your way up. This is the reverse of the door in the face technique. Instead of starting with a large request, you start with something really small. Once someone is committed to helping you or agreeing to do something, they are now more likely to agree to a bigger request. Scientists test this phenomenon in regards to marketing. They started by getting people to express support for the rainforest and the environment, which was a fairly simple request. Then they found that once they had gotten them to express agreement to supporting the environment, they were much easier to convince when it came to buying products and supporting rainforest and other such things. They were much easier to convince when it came to buying products that supported rainforest and other such things. However, don't start with one request and immediately assail them with another. Psychologists found that it's much more effective if you wait a day or two before making the second request. Trick 3. Don't correct people when they are wrong. Carnegie also pointed out in his famous book that telling someone they are wrong is usually unnecessary and does the opposite of endearing them to you. There is actually a way to show disagreement and turn it into a polite conversation without telling someone they are wrong, which strikes to the core of their ego. This is called the Ransberger pivot, invented by Ray Ransberger and Marshall Fritz. The idea is pretty simple. Instead of arguing, listen to what they have to say, and then seek to understand how they feel and why. Then you explain the common ground you share with them, and use that as a starting point to explain your position. This makes them much more likely to listen to what you have to say, and also allows you to correct them without them losing face. Trick 2. Paraphrase people and repeat back to them what they just said. One of the most positive ways to influence others is to show them that you really understood how they feel and that you have real empathy for them. One of the most effective ways to do this is by paraphrasing what they say and repeating it back to them, also known as reflective listening. Studies have shown that when therapists use reflective listening, people were more likely to disclose more emotion and a much better therapeutic relationship with their therapist. This easily transfers over to talking to your friends. If you listen to what they say and rephrase it as a question to confirm that you understood it, they are going to be more comfortable talking to you. They are also going to have a better friendship with you and more likely to listen to what you have to say because you have showed them that you care about them. Trick 1. Nod a lot while you talk, especially when leading up to asking for a favor. Scientists have found that when people nod while listening to someone, they are more likely to be in agreement with it. They've also discovered that when someone is nodding in front of them, it is natural for them to do the same. This is understandable because humans are well known at mimicking behaviors, especially those that they consider to have positive connotations. So if you want to be extra convincing, nod regularly through the conversation. The person you are talking to will find it hard not to nod themselves, and they will start to feel agreeable towards you and what you are saying, without even knowing it. So what did you think about these cunning tips? Leave a comment down below of how you've used them to get your own way. And if you want more videos like this, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time here at Fact Generation.